ver y ver más allá.
I'm going to go off into the other quote just to give a little more context to what we're talking about and conscious mediumship. This is on page 11. It says, there is no longer an avant-garde, political, sexual or artistic embodying a capacity for anticipation. Hence, the possibility of any radical critique, whether in the name of desire, of revolution, or of the liberation of forms, no longer exists. The days of that revolutionary movement are gone. The glorious march of modernity has not led to the transformation of all values as we once dreamed it would, but instead to a dispersal and involution of value whose upshot for us is total confusion, the impossibility of apprehending any determining principle, whether of an aesthetic or a sexual or a political kind. And he goes on, and later he says that essentially the only locus for critical activity today is the catastrophe. It's the viral and the accidental. So, which is pointing, when metaphors are gone, he's saying only the earthquake or only the cataclysmic event can offer commentary.
Yeah, the convulsions. And Coker picks up on that, saying we oscillate between depression between ecstasy and catastrophe.
Yep.
That would be maybe what's called the bi-modern as opposed to the postmodern. Okay, back to, it's really interesting to, hear what Baudrillard says and then be able to find where McLuhan said it. But let's make a distinction. He says that point, that no causes, sexual, political, any kind of cause, what I would call chemical body causes, are possible after the atomic bomb. He says that in an essay in 1945.
Yes.
And he says it'll be a great threat to the artistic ego. He points out the traditional artistic ego will find this hard to handle. And probably a good symptom of that dilemma that McLuhan could see through was Norman Mailer. Or any of the art world junkies. They had the traditional artistic ego, and they basically, their lives turned into an identity crisis. So Baudrillard picks up that point of making fun of the artistic ego and every other kind of humanist or reactionary agenda, which I then all lump into chemical body. So Baudrillard sees that. So now, I would say Baudrillard is picking up the collapse, because I say the Android meme starts to collapse in 1990. He's actually picking up the collapse of the discarnate, TV landscape, or the chip body, or the TV body. McLuhan was McLuhan's talking about the collapse for the chemical body. Now, you still have the extension in 45 of television, computers, and satellites. So it becomes Planet of the Dead. That's McLuhan's phrase in the 60s. That's the effect of analog media. What Baudrillard is doing is taking the period from late 60s to the 90s, which is the Android memes replay of all the analog media phases. And Baudrillard's actually describing the death of the Android meme. So we can say he's like McLuhan, but he's actually involved in the second phase of technoculture.
Yeah, so to use your calculus, the AP-AM type vortex, would that be fair to say?
Well, the AP doesn't...
the AM-AP type situation.
That comes into my thing. He's within the AM. The AP is the ongoing projection by humans of where they're at. It's not limited to the chemical body or any of the bodies. It's the ongoing excavation of the mystery landscape. So I think Baudrillard does move into the AM-AP ratio if you understand AP as the mystery landscape. He does definitely work with that. You know what I mean? But he doesn't get to talk about it like I do. I mean, I come into it later and then use it and talk about how it becomes a figure with Obama and Lady Gaga and Ion. You know what I mean? And a lot of the other strange phenomena like the fake death of Michael Jackson and those other things. That's the mystery landscape becoming figure. Baudrillard is operating in the post-chip landscape, intuiting the mystery landscape, but he doesn't see it becoming a figure unless someone can show me he does. Maybe he does, but it gets tricky at that. It gets pretty eschatological at that point. But I think my insight right here is that Voyage sounds like McLuhan, but he's actually dealing with the android mean phase, which is the digital machines replaying the analog phase and replaying a lot of the effects. For example, the Planet of the Dead for the chemical body is what McLuhan sees in 1945. So that's a good new insight. I have never spelled it out that clearly before, I don't think.
La misma que nosotros, 5.000 accidentes que ocurren cada año entre los millones que no suceden.